And welcome to Liquid Lunch, coming at you live today. It's the 18th of September, and we got a really big show coming up right now, right,
We do,
Sandra?
we do. We're not going to do a lot of banter because I'm so excited. Oh my God.
The whole show's going to be nothing but banter.
I have been so looking forward to this show. We have amazing people. I feel like I'm going to explode.
Okay. Well, we've got Jeffrey West joining us here at the table. Jeffrey, you've got a really popular internet radio show now, right, called Cosmic Vision News.
It seems to be. It seems to be resonating with people, so I'm very fortunate and very blessed that a small project I happen to be working on seems to be resonating with a lot of people.
And yet the Queen still hasn't come clean
And yet
about
the Queen
her
still
dastardly
hasn't come
dealings.
clean. Yeah, we got to send some people to check up on that. So hopefully we'll get some update as we get our crews out there. As my show expands, maybe I'll have the resources to chase her down and find out what's going on.
Well, we're going to find out exactly what's going on
Yes, we are.
on this show. This is the show where we find out exactly what's going on.
I mean, what's really going on?
Because we've got Franco DeNicola coming on the show. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction to Franco? And why he's such a good person to talk to about everything that's going on?
Well, because Franco's in the know. Franco's a guy that's really in the know. He is, he'll talk a little bit about himself, so I really don't want to talk too much about him, but he is what's called a unified soul, and he can explain that a little bit when we interview him. And he knows, he knows about timelines and what's going to happen beyond 2012, what's going to happen over the next 3-4 years, and beyond that. Franco deals with a lot of stuff on this plane of reality as well as other planes, and that's where I think Jeffrey, you and Franco have a lot in common as well, because he deals with a lot of the stuff that you delve into.
Absolutely.
And Franco gets his information from directly.
Yes.
So he's been doing this for a very long time, but he hasn't been able to come public for a while because we weren't ready for it. The collective wasn't ready for it. So he's now starting to come out and talk about it and give us, bits and pieces as the collective consciousness is ready for. So we get to hear a lot of stuff that, because our audience is such a open-minded, progressive audience, we're going to get to talk about things that I think that he may not be able to talk to in more mainstime type circles.
Okay.
This is well beyond things like the law of attraction.
Yeah, this isn't going to be like BT.
So we get to really delve into that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Dimensional BT.
So that's great.
And beyond.
Just a couple things.
Dimensional BT and beyond.
Okay, so let's play a couple videos, and we're going to come back with Franco right after this. But just a couple things. One of the videos we're going to watch is about all the astrology that's going on today. Apparently, Uranus and Pluto are coming to a perfect square today, and these squares are going to come in and out of phase till 2015 or something like that.
Oh wow!
Yes.
Well, maybe that has something to do with that the whole shift. Then it's got to,
and
right?
that's happening today. Plus, of course, I hear that armadas of British and American naval ships are amassing in the
I know.
near Iran.
Somewhere near Iran.
But also,
I want to get Franco's take on this from a spiritual perspective. Yes.
But wait, there's more, because apparently the Chinese Navy and the U.S. Navy are teaming up off the west coast of the U.S., because the U.S. Navy is mostly in the Persian Gulf. Yeah. And they're teaming up off the west coast. They're having a battle with UFOs. I'm not joking. It was in Veterans today. I don't have video. Oh wait, I do have video. No, I don't. Isn't that sad?
Okay, Jeffrey, get your sources on that.
Man, I'll have to tune in quick. All right, who can I put a call out to here?
So we don't know what that's all about. But let's watch the Planet Pulse today from these astrologers, Jeff, and I forget the other guy's name. I watch him all the time. And we're going to come back with Franco DeNicola and carry on here on Liquid Lunch.
We have to work on your memory.
No, your memory.
The big wheels of change are turning, and we can start to feel it today. I'm Jeff Jower for Planet Pulse.
And I'm Rick Levine. The big wheels of which you speak, I assume, are the big wheels of Uranus, the planet of revolution and Pluto, the planet of transformation. Their 90-degree angles are reminding us of the changes that began during the 60s when they joined together, and now we're back in the thick of it, and today we are reminded of them, not only because they're exact, but there are other planets that are stirring that energy up.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the basic rules of astrology is you have long, slow patterns that sit in the background, like Uranus square Pluto transforming our culture over the next 3 years, but they get triggered by faster moves. And today, Pluto, one of the planets involved, turns around and begins moving forward. It releases its transformational energy, and the moon, after being stopped by solid Saturn in Libra, shifts into Scorpio late this morning, which is Pluto's home sign.
Right, and all of this adds up to a perfect storm, so to speak. As much as we want to or think we might want to hold on to the status quo, the energy is shifting at a very deep and very profound level. The more we hold on to things the way they were or the way we think we want them to be, the more difficult it'll be. This is about being flexible and showing up and allowing the changes to occur.
Yeah, my take is a little bit different. I largely agree, but the difference for me is we might not want to allow them to occur. We may have to engage ourselves a bit more deeply. But whether you're more in the flow with Mr. Cancer Moon Levine, or whether you're into the struggle with Mr. Scorpio Moon Jower, change is the name of the game.
Hello, I'm Graham Douillet, founder of Enlight Radio and host of the radio program Our Galactic Family. As many of you know already, we are not alone in the universe. I know my galactic family is here in our skies as I speak to you now, as do my colleagues who will be sharing their stories with you shortly. In fact, we are all part of the same galactic family. You, me, our families, friends, neighbors, and colleagues, and those who have been and continue to appear in our skies. Our star brothers and sisters have been with us since the beginning of time, and they've been visiting with us regularly every day. We see them in our skies. We hear stories of others who have seen them. We have even seen them ourselves. You probably have too, some of you without your even knowing it. And if you haven't, then you're probably like the vast majority of people across the world. You believe they're here and that we're not alone. I know that many of them look just like you and me, and they come here to help us, and they come in peace. They care about the earth. They care about us, all beings. How do I know this? Because if they weren't here in peace, they wouldn't have simply been appearing in our skies for so long and doing nothing to harm us, would they? They are peaceful, evolved spiritual beings and want to share their knowledge and technologies to help us heal our planet and help all beings thrive, and we need the help. When I see them in our skies and ask, why haven't our governments and other world leaders simply admitted to their existence? What do they have to hide? Well, they would lose their power and control over us. And so would all our religions and religious leaders.
And we're back here on the show. You see, so disclosure is imminent.
Disclosure is imminent.
Amongst other things are possibly imminent. And we have Franco DeNicola joining us to talk about all this kind of stuff. Franco, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on this show. And you guys are an awesome team here and making this information available to all the audience. And really, I mean, this information is to help people expand their consciousness, way of looking at life and feeling that this is not all there is. I mean, we have phenomenal capabilities and opportunities, and we are fully able to navigate through all of this. But it's just a matter of coming to that awareness and saying, yeah, we can do this. We can change anything.
And it's really comforting to know that, Franco, because especially for people now, the reality out there is so tough. Yeah. We're seeing so many things like you were talking about Iran, Hugh, and people personally, they're being affected by losing their jobs and that kind of thing. So it's so nice. It's so comforting to know that, you know, we do have a chance to change that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not the end of the world, doomsday, or anything of that nature. It may look in certain ways, especially when the structures and things around us start to crumble that we've attached ourselves to as our way of life, our security, our support system, and all we know, of course, then it's going to seem like, oh, my world is ending or something, you know. But in actual fact, that's just creating openings for us to really now take a different direction. Because, yeah, I mean, if you look at everything that we have, we've made all this stuff up, and we just keep convincing ourselves that's all there is.
So if we've made this stuff up, we can make something else up. If we don't like this, then we can make something else up, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we are in a universe, we are on a planet here. This is if you look at Earth, okay, as much as it's a planet, it is really a schoolyard and playground that we come here. We sign up to be here to do this, to have this particular experience. But when we're coming in here, I mean, we realize that there are certain confines because of the structures that we have in place. But really, who we truly are, even in these physicalities, we have some amazing potentiality to have any experience we choose. That's why the children, when they come in, it's so hard now to mold them, because they already have their eyes open to an understanding, and they're saying, well, you got to memorize this, do this, 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 and this. And like, no, I don't. And they don't see the value and even the energy that's involved in it, in the sense of feeling, they do feel confined. But there's so many other people right now, the adults and otherwise, they're starting to see, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is really not our reality. And why am I getting up every day doing this and this and this and this? And because when you start reflecting on your life, you'll look at it. You say, well, I came on the planet, all right, and here I am. I've gone through this initiation, activation sort of experience through learning and exposure and so forth, and became programmed to repeat a cycle that everybody else has been repeating. And of course, our structures, our systems, education and otherwise, really have created such confines that says, well, you can't think out of the box, you cannot use your imagination, you cannot be free. No, you want to be on this planet, you need to be like this, which is, you got to learn all these steps, these are the only things you're allowed to learn, you can't question anything, and this is the only jobs, the only careers, the only opportunities we have, and you need to fit yourself in one of these slots.
You know what's really funny, Franco? I mean, the way you make it sound, it's such a program. It sounds almost to me like a cult in a way. A lot of people say, you know, oh, this whole spirituality thing, it's just, you know, another cult. But then the way you're describing it to me makes me think, well, it doesn't get more cultish than that, really? Is there any difference?
Well,
it's a brainwashing of a sort,
yes.
Right?
I mean, you have to understand, the way we're looking at the world right now is all in reverse. You know, so the thing is, like you said, with the cult, well, you're looking at it and say, well, oh, wait a minute, those guys that are waking up, they're you know, making new choices, they're in a cult, they're rocking the boat. Yeah. In actual fact, it's the other way around, where as long as we're in the system doesn't allow you to step out. You can't question anything. So which one looks more like the cult? Where the other one is free-spirited, is able to use imagination, is able to look at things for what it really is, versus going the other way and say, well, no, you can't think outside the box. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. You're going to be this. And this is what you need to learn. And then, of course, the education system doesn't even have, and I'm just using one because there's a lot of different structures that we have, to allow even the capability of having the most current information. Because if you look at most of the stuff that we've been taught, not only it not being accurate, but it's also very archaic, and we have much more discoveries, much more opportunities, technical ways, in technologies. Yeah. We have it in understanding our universe, understanding our own beingness on the planet, but that doesn't get into books, that does not get into the education, because you know, I've talked to many people that are scientists and so forth, and they say, we have all these discoveries, we have all this capability that we've come across. Try to get it into a book, into any education. Absolutely not. It has to be all alternative. You know? And then, of course, the internet has exploded in such a way where people are posting and sharing more of that. And of course, now you have the bashing and trying to control and saying, well, no, we can't let this stuff out because it'll start an anarchy.
Yes, yes.
Because we can't keep our everything
Can't keep it
the
reined
reins.
in, yeah.
Yeah, because everybody's on reins and being pulled in on leashes, and wait a minute, we can't have people because more people are going to see it, that you just unbuckle this and you walk away and say, no, we don't need to play this.
So they don't want people to think for themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, Franco, so before we get into the meat and potatoes.
I think we already are.
Well, maybe I just want to get a little bit of background about you, first of all, because
Okay.
you speak with a lot of authority, and I just want
And
to know
passion.
where this comes from. You mentioned that he gets the information directly. I'm not sure what that means. Franco,
Okay.
can you give us a little bit of a background about yourself?
All right. I mean, Franco itself is a physicality with a computer, okay? My soul, as everyone has a soul, are going through the same similar process of going through a forgetting who you are and going through a multitude of lives and going through an awakening process until you get to what we call a full enlightened state. In an enlightened state, you're basically now no longer, because you remember who you are source itself, and that you are also creator. And at that point in time, you don't need to have these experiences on any planet. Because every planet is a schoolyard and playground. We're just in different physicalities and so forth. So in my particular case, what I had done is I've gone through the whole process and went through a complete enlightenment process, the soul itself I'm talking about. So I've had 923 lives before this one, not all on this planet, it's been on other planets, and achieved to a point where I became fully enlightened. Remember who you are. At this point in time, in an enlightened state, you go from human to superhuman and being state. In being state now, you are no longer needing to take any physical form, because at that point you either support what's playing out, because each one of us is a facet of each other. Mm-hmm. So when I achieved the enlightenment process fully in 1754 on this planet, then I stayed another until 1806 on the planet in an enlightened being, but I also left the mainstream where there was a large collective of people.
So we wouldn't know who you were at 17, like you weren't somebody
no,
like...
I stayed out because at this point in time, and I had students coming out and would come for specific, and they would travel long distance because I was quite away at that.
Okay.
But that completed in 1806.
Okay.
And at, sorry, 1807. And then when I was done with that, basically I had already agreed to come back on the planet when it was ready to assist with the shift. Okay. So when I did depart from the planet, and I recall the whole experience of going through, I no longer needed to be in the physicality, but at the same time I wanted to create a more preparation for myself to come back. So I traveled interdimensionally. So I traveled from dimension to dimension, planet to planet to experience, but I never incarnated in a physical form. I would project a physical form, which we can all do, and we do. And that's quite an explanation itself.
Wow.
But I would project on other planets to observe what was their ways and their level of functionality. And to understand these beings that are coming on through a planet, or anything else, on any being that's on a planet in a physicality is doing the same process as we are, going from a sleep state, meaning here's source coming back into a state where it's no longer conscious of that, and it will come here, go to any planet, and some souls do interchange, go into different planets, and they come back, they go on the planet, and they at that point in time select their physicality and whatever they want to experience, and they come here and they come to play, or wherever they are, they play, they experience, they learn from that experience, and then each lifetime, their motive is to get to another level of enlightenment where there's another layer or 1 or 2 or 3 veils removed from the forgetfulness. Now, the thing is, it's not that we're coming here to forget who we are or any other planet. We're coming here to do so, but we become experientially rich in doing so, though. So it's not like we're source itself coming in, forgetting we're source, and we just remember source. We remember ourselves in a state of complete play and expansion, because you've now created a multitude of realities and experiences. So you become experientially rich.
So is it fair to say that all of us, Franco, are living on other planets too? Like, even as we speak, are all of us experiencing, because you were mentioning that you had journeyed on other planets and other dimensions, are all of us doing that at some level of awareness?
everyone goes through the same process.
Okay.
Okay. So everybody at some point in time. Now
Okay.
it depends on the souls, because there's a whole structure to explain that would be quite complicated to do so. But in a sense, depending on the state of consciousness of that soul, the more that it is non-recognizing itself, then it will only follow a very limited pattern coming back to a certain planet. When you get to a certain level, you are more. So when you leave the physicality, you're no longer just in saying, I stepped out. You can look at the planet, you can look at all the roles, and you can say, wow, okay, all that stuff I got all dramatic about and all intense was pretty easy. I mean, what was all that about, right? Because at that point, you don't have a computer that defines the experience. Because when you really look at it, everything is just an experience. So, but if they're in a state of consciousness where they can't see other playgrounds, and it says, well, I want to go back to there, so it will continue to reincarnate on the same planet until they start to see, wait a minute, I have an option there and I have an option there, so now I can go incarnate there.
Okay,
So some are
get it.
considered planet jumpers, meaning that you go onto different playgrounds to experience, and those are usually the ones that are more conscious, because if you look at it, I mean, it's just amazing to see that, to say, well, I've been a human, or anybody has been a human. No one's from here. Realistically, we're all from source, but we all come from different planets too at different times. This planet was retuned about 15,000 years ago, and these physicalities are only 15,000 years ago. Now the planet is much older, but it's like a stage, right? It's like this studio. You change it for different people coming in, and if you're playing a role in a theater or something, you're going to stage it. So it was reprogrammed to experience what we're experiencing now.
So when you're saying we're not really from here, and you interrupt, because I'm dominating this whole thing.
I know. That's okay. I don't know where to begin.
Feel free to pipe in whenever. But when you were saying, we're not from here, I mean, we hear a lot about Pleiadians and star seeds and Andromedans.
Arcturians.
And Arcturians and Sirians. And we hear that there are some living here and incarnating as a human. First of all, is that accurate? And what is the difference between a star seed and someone who's not a star? Like, are human star seeds, or how does that work?
It really, at the soul level, which is really what's embodying our physicalities, are the only part of us that is immortal and that moves around. The physicalities, we just pick it up. Like if you take mom and dad, they're just the factory that produces the car, or the vehicle for it.
That's nice.
Okay?
Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. So they're producing the vehicle, but for you, and you actually select your parents. You select what characteristics you want from mom and dad, because it's like you go into a car dealership and you say, well, I want a GM or something of that nature, and now I'd say I want this particular car, Malibu, whatever it is, and then I'm going to say, okay, I want this motor in it, and I want that type of transmission, I want power windows, I want this, I want those color exterior, and so forth, right? So we're doing kind of the same thing.
But we can't all be a Mercedes.
No, but you wouldn't want to be.
Some people want to be able to Baron.
I don't even know what that is.
See, the point is, when you're choosing when you're choosing the vehicle, it's not about, oh, I'm going to be famous because I want stature or anything of that nature. The soul looks at it and says, okay, I'm going to select something, because you have to understand, it's not only the family you're choosing, the physicality, you're giving your parents a name, but you're also on the planet, where on the planet, what type of cultures, because everything has a series of codes, so he gives you a certain type of experience.
So you decide your country, your gender,
Absolutely.
So if you decide to be born in a poverty third world country, you've chosen that as well, right? Because a lot of people say, well, that's not fair because these people are born over here and this person's born in the royal family, and look at the difference. How did the royal family get to be the royal family and the person starving in Ethiopia?
And when are they going to come clean about their
disclosure?
Their stuff.
Well, see, the thing is, when you're looking at the soul itself, it basically chooses the path because it has a list of things that it wants to accomplish and achieve that will help them to become more enlightened. You have to understand it's coming here for variety. So it's not going to look at the third world country and say that's going to be a horrible, pitiful thing, and then being the royal family. Because if you really look at both polarities are not comfortable in a state of consciousness anyways.
That's
Once you're aware, I mean, you could be popular. You think the queen is having a blast?
No, she's not having any more fun than you or me.
I would imagine that you would have more fun than the Queen or in the third world country, but that's just something in between. So does it mean that that soul hasn't been there? We've all been murderers. We've all been having different experiences of being the murdered one. We have the experience of being third world countries, being abused and so forth, and we've also been royalty, or we've been, you know, very rich or whatever it is, right?
Mary Queen of Scots.
We've all had different opportunities, because at the soul level, it does not judge an experience. An experience is an experience. Okay, is this going to serve me? So somebody coming in a body that's disabled, saying, well, look at them, you know, poor them, or whatever happened. Well, they say they get to see the physicality, and they say, okay, that's the one I want. These are the parents, because they're going to give me, push my buttons, do whatever it is, as I equally do for them, because it's mutual. This is not like you pop into mom and dad and say, surprise, I'm here. Well, at the mind level, of course.
Yes.
But at the soul level, they've already been communicating, and they say, well, I can do this for you, and you can do this for me.
So it's a two-way street always.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because it's not that anything is imposed. We're not living in that realm. It may be seeming imposed when we come here, and then our physicalities and our mind construct is now being molded to say, okay, this is all there is, then, and you're imposed to learn something. But I'll tell you, even that, you have the opportunity to change at any point, because at any point you say, no, I'm not interested in playing this game. It doesn't matter what age you are, you can change anything at the soul level, because your experience is really because you've chosen to be there.
So, okay, so then that's a really good thing to explore. How do you do that? Somebody who is not happy in their life, and there's a lot of people out there that are not happy. I mean, some people don't even know that they have the choice to say, okay, you know what? I don't like this anymore. I want to create something different. How do we go about doing that? What would you recommend?
Well, in changing any particular experience, now there's a couple of really nice things about that you need to understand. First of all, what we want at the mind level and what we've judged as good or bad or unpleasant or I would love this, that's all programmed. Okay, and that is because we've observed somebody and say, oh, look, that person is famous, they look great on TV, and they're doing whatever they're doing, and I want to be like them. Or you see a neighbor having a certain experience, and you say, well, I want part of that. Or you know, the popular kid, or anything of that nature, realistically. But that's all mind stuff. Now, realistically,
so we might be asking the wrong question then. Is that what you're saying? Because we're actually looking for the wrong things.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say wrong thing, but you're looking at a thing that is perceived through a mind.
Okay.
And that is filtered and conditioned and programmed. So in actual fact, you know, even with the laws of attractions, all these things, and people are all envisioning all that stuff, as much as that was an opening, and that there is a level of truth in that, I'm not saying there isn't, but that's only a small component in comparison of what is actually designing our life. So, and the point is, when somebody's looking at and saying, well, I'm unhappy, I have a lousy whatever, the question you need to ask, why am I seeing it as lousy? What is bothering me about it first? So you need to look at that aspect of it. And then see that if there's judgment about it, well, I don't like it because I don't have this, this, and this. Okay, now, really at the soul is saying, well, you know, this, and this that you don't like is pushing your buttons, is giving you an opportunity to show you that you're still operating on a program and you're not a free-minded being any longer. Meaning your desires are based on material or based on what other people have acquired. So the soul is saying, well, that doesn't help. We came here to have a certain experience, and whatever that is. Now, if the experience gets to a point where the soul says, okay, we're done with this, and we no longer need that, then you could shift it. And it's very easy to do so.
Okay, so how do you know you're done with it? When you're no longer feeling emotional about it? How do you know when you're ready to shift?
When there is no more, like you said, emotions or judgment about it.
Okay, judgment,
it's when you're in a situation and say, great, I'm neutral about the situation. It doesn't matter that my spouse or partner or my job or whatever looks the way it looks. You're no longer judging it, and you're saying, okay, great, everybody's having their experience. Now, when you get to the point of that, you say, okay, does it resonate for me to be part of this experience any longer? And you'll know when things are done. I'm sure all of you have had the opportunity at one point or another to say, you know, I really don't need to do this anymore. And I'm going to go a different direction. But there's not No, I'm going to leave because this is painful, this is horrible, and because what happens is the soul says, well, I didn't learn my lesson here. You're going to step into another scenario, and then you've heard of people, what's one lousy job after another, one relationship after another. Why does all this bad stuff happen to me? It's because you didn't get your lesson, what you came here to learn at that point in time, and saying, well, I don't need to judge any of this stuff, and I can get neutral in that state. And even the loaded thing that you said about happiness, okay, realistically, happiness doesn't exist. When we're looking at happiness, it's only a polarity, no different than sadness. It is a mind construct. So some people say, well, I'm not happy. Well, how long does that last? We are like this with happiness. We're happy. You can get somebody having a great day and they're just like, oh, I'm happy. And one little phone call, one little text, one person says to them one little thing. Mom may call, or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden, boom. Or they walk into work and somebody just says, that was a piece of whatever. And all of a sudden it's changed. What happened? Because all of a sudden you triggered all this stuff and saying, wait a minute. And then most of it is all internalized. So the whole idea of happiness is that we've set certain rules that need to be matched. And then if they're all matched, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to be
am I
happy.
not really happy to have you on the show then?
You're ecstatic.
I am.
Well, yes.
Is that real?
Well, let me ask you. Are you, because the presence of here and whatever you can get out of it, or is it just feels good?
It just feels awesome.
There you go.
That's up to her. You know, and people go, as you say, people go up and down. But I think what you're saying is that happiness isn't the point, right? The point is the enrichment of our souls or whatever.
Yes, and it will use that one way or another. But our true nature, if you want to understand our true nature, is peace and neutrality. So we can play with polarities because happiness and sadness is just a polarity. Our natural state is neutrality in the middle. And with neutrality, you don't judge any experience, but you can play with any side you want, but your natural state always goes back to there. So it's like this. You can go to a place and you can see things being very awkward and uncomfortable, and you can step in there and say, wow, okay, here's my playground, let's go play. And in that moment, because that's where you are, in that moment, you can choose whatever you want to do. I want to have fun with it, or I'm just going to sit here like a bump on a log and just not like my experience.
Okay, so do you ever get angry, Franco? Do you ever lose yourself sometimes and move out of that place of neutrality?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So even as somebody who is has reached that enlightened, I mean, it's good to know, because even somebody who's reached an enlightened status, do you sometimes still get caught up because of the energies here? Because that can be really difficult.
Well, the thing is, it's in that case, it's like, for example, just to explain a little bit more about myself. When I decided to come back here, okay, and there was a couple of steps that happened. So I planet jumped for 54 years. Without a physicality, and then at that point, because we're all split souls, we have a twin. Okay, to understand what a soul is, you know, we're all from one soul, but we've fragmented. But each soul has a series of encodements. Okay, it's a way, it's like a tonality and frequency, so that even if it's having the same experience, it's not going to be identical, because it picks up certain bands of that frequency to have a different experience.
Okay.
However, to create something extraordinary at one point, when we decided, we actually took one soul and we fragmented it into two with the identical series, identical tonality and so forth, being that they were exact copies.
Why would we
but
do
they
that?
also went out and went to have different choices of physicalities and experiences.
Why do we do that, Franco?
Well, it actually accentuates the fact that we are, and this is the reason why people are always looking for their other half and why they get into relationships, because they're always looking, really, they're saying, well, I'm looking for my soulmate, or I'm looking, and most of that's fairly new, because people didn't talk about soulmates until, 50, 60 years ago, or whatever, prior to that. Then now the twin soul thing has only been the last 10 or so years, where people say, well, no, that, whatever that is with the soulmate, it's not. So what are our soulmates? I mean, our soulmates are brother-sister souls that are within the family structure that we've had other lives with, and we've agreed to play with each other.
And I think that's common. I mean, I can say in my life, I got people that I've known my whole life, but it's like I've known these people for much longer, even in this life. And you run into them, like the synchronicities involved with some of these people are just crazy. It doesn't make any logical sense.
I definitely feel like you're a soulmate for me. I don't know if you do, but I do.
I do.
And you've had a multitude of lives. As you are conscious, you can feel, I've known you for forever, type of thing. And because you've had other lives together, and you may have played different roles in each other's lives. It doesn't mean each life you're going to meet again. You may have a couple of lives you don't meet, but then you meet again. But you have a multitude of soulmates, because there's lots of those.
But you only have one twin.
One twin.
Okay.
So what happens then is that you go out and play, and when each of half becomes fully enlightened, off-planet, non-physical form, the two unite and becomes a unified soul. At that point in time, it brings all the experiences of one half and the other, it combines it together, totally neutralizes the experience into the one. So now you have even a higher access.
So that means you, as a unified soul, are your twin and you.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
What if you meet your twin in this life?
He can't, because he is the twin.
It's unifying that. So the soul is, the two halves emerged some 150 years ago. And then I was on the planet for another 100 years, off planet for another 100 years after that. And then I reincarnated in 1957. Now, when I did come here, this is where it came in, is I couldn't come in as a being state, because it really is difficult to assimilate and really understand the human experience. Even though I had 923 and my other half had 625, that's a multitude of lives that we've had.
How do you know this, Franco? That is so fascinating. How do you know that?
You do when you get to that level where you can actually see all your lives as they stream by. I mean, you don't want to play with them because they were all different experiences. Even when I did, going back into timeline, what we call past lives, when you get there, it doesn't feel, because at that point in time, you have to understand you're going back to the energy, the consciousness of that time, of the environment, and you're already in a different state. It's like you're going back to your past when you were 12 years old or something.
I don't want to do that.
In the same consciousness that you're in now, it's going, I don't need to do this again. I've got to go through all that stuff again. No, you're not going to feel that way. So, so the past lives is as intriguing as may be, and well, let me look, but that's only feeding a mind, right? Saying, well, look, I was this role, I was that role, or whatever it is, I'm better than, that's the mind, that's the ego mind itself, because it wants to define itself.
Well, and let's just make this clear too for everybody. For people who aren't unified souls, which is probably the rest of the population, it doesn't mean one is better or worse than anybody else, because I just want to make us understand that this is not a higher, lower, no one is better or worse than anybody else, or more special or less special, right?
We're all starting off at the same level, and we're all going into different. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of unified souls, a lot of.
Oh, there are.
But they're not on the planet.
Oh.
Nobody wants to come back here.
Well.
Okay.
Oh, thanks. Nobody wants to come back here. Something we did, Hugh.
I think it's the climate.
So the thing is, when I say that when you get into unified enlightened state, coming back here is like going back to kindergarten.
Okay.
And you are now an adult in a sense, if you want to talk at that. It's really hard to get back in and say, why am I doing this again? So they won't. And now you're free to do whatever, supporting other facets of yourself, other souls on different planets, and you can move around. And you're not restricted in a physicality. You don't have to take care of it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. So it's really different. So why would you want to go back?
So then that begs the question.
Yes.
Why did you stray from the pack?
Because I had made the agreement to come back to assist with this part. So part of the deal was to come back here in this physical form and go from a being state to a superhuman state, dropping three steps.
Wow.
And to take on a physicality, take on a simulated operating system and a simulated ego, and to really re-experience it. Now, when I came here, I was fully enlightened. Then that only was maintained for a period of time. By the time I was 5, my agreement was to release 80% of my consciousness in accessibility, meaning I can't access it. So that was undetermined how long that was going to take, depending on humanity's state of consciousness and whatever was shifting. So it turned out to be 39 years long. Okay.
Wow.
But then in 2001, it was time for the veils to start removing and to regain access to my of their consciousness at that point in time.
In that 39 years, Franco, did you have any inkling at all, or did you completely buy into this program? Was there
No,
any?
I never bought in fully in the program
Okay.
because I always knew why I was here.
Okay.
But I did have experiences like everybody else, you know.
Getting a job, getting married.
having married kids and
Okay,
stuff like that,
okay.
because it was all agreed upon. Because I had, you know, for me to really create a really powerful connection with humanity was to be one of them.
Yeah.
So for them to relate with me and for I to relate with them, even though I've had many lives here before, remember, I left here in 1806. I stopped being in the human race at 1754.
A lot happens in the
Things
150
change,
years
yes,
or so.
The frequencies change. The whole world has gone through a transformational aspect. So to come back here and say, well, you know, I know how it is there. No, it's different. And plus, I need to stay current. And staying current, that's why part of me is still in a human form and part of me still connects with the human experience and still having that. So when you ask me about getting angry, that I don't really feel.
Okay.
I can feel it's sometimes a slight amount of frustration, but it's like a glimpse of it. You feel it. Now, prior to that, yes, I would feel it much more. But as my energy started to shift and my consciousness came back, it's like everything is an experience. Why bother you? Now, so there are certain things that you can feel, but it's only to keep you fresh. So even having a challenge is just keep me in tune.
Keep your toe in,
yes,
kind of
exactly.
thing.
Because, and then there's other process that has occurred is that I was able, for a period of time during the 39 years, I was able to drop into people and see through their eyes and look at it. So I had over 1,000 different people that were all culturally diversified, so that I would be able to understand all cultures. I'll understand.
You could do that? You could be all those kind of look through their eyes?
Yes.
Wow, very cool, very
so
neat.
I don't do that any longer because now in this is you've got a whole you know what do you call it, a bookcase full of stuff within yourself of knowing how anybody finds. So you can, at this point, you can never judge anybody, no matter what their cultures are or anything of that nature. You can see how they operate, and you can see why they can see it that way and why they would respond that way, so that whenever you're assisting them, you're not coming in from a white Caucasian, you know, with this type of background, and you're never going to understand what this type of person has gone through. And being in a third world country and so forth, and seeing through that eyes and seeing how they actually feel and so forth. So it gives you that
greater tolerance, right? And an understanding.
It's more than a tolerance, it's a deep understanding, appreciation. And when we look at a compassion, it's not a compassion of feeling bad for them, it's a compassion of saying, I really know what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and you're ready, I understand where you are, and you can make these steps. And then in some way provide some opening for them to take the steps. So to step out of their little box and say, okay, here's the door, we can open some things, and this is some perspective. So that's what's occurring. Now, what I share on the planet right now is an expanded way of understanding the human experience, how our planet operates, and what we can do to shift everything. It doesn't matter what the control structure or anything is in place, we have access to go beyond what we've experienced, and that is the opening that we create.
Fabulous. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a break, Franco, and we're going to come back and we're going to find out how we can what we can do to make that shift happen.
And let's look what's going to happen. Maybe we can talk about beyond 2012 and 2013, all the way up to 2017.
Because I thought you couldn't see beyond 2012.
Franco can. Can.
So what we have here is, so let's, just to get us kind of all hyped up for this, I got a video here about the Illuminati and all the dastardly things
Franco,
that they're
do you know
doing.
about the Illuminati?
Absolutely.
Are they real?
Absolutely.
Let's just watch this. This will remind everybody what some of the things we need to change, and we're going to come back and keep talking to Franco.
In fact, I'm going to keep talking even.
In a letter dated 22 January 1870, Mazzini wrote to Pike. Now, Albert Pike is this high mason who wrote the manual, if you like, of Scottish Freemasonry. He said the following: We must allow all of the federations to continue just as they are. It must appear as things are as they were in the beginning, with their systems, their central authorities, and diverse modes of correspondence between high grades of the same right, organized as they are at present, but we must create a super right, which will remain unknown, to which we will call those Masons of high degree, whom we shall select. With regard to our brothers in Masonry, these men must be pledged to the strictest secrecy. Through this supreme right, we will govern all Freemasonry, which will become the one international center, the more powerful because its direction will be unknown. Now, Albert Pike wrote a letter to Mancini, and that was dated August 15, 1871, in which he propagated that there should be a world order, a one order where all nations are under the control of one central organization. And in order to achieve this, they planned, and there are numerous quotes for this, so I've put a number on the screen because some will say, I don't trust this, I don't trust that, I don't trust the other. Here are references down there, there are references up there, there will be references in other slides, so it comes from different sources. He said, and this was, by the way, on display in the British Museum, and could be seen there until it was taken away. The First World War, to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, protector of orthodoxy, and bring about an atheistic communistic state. Did that happen? Yes. Now that was written long before this event. Long before this event. This was written in 1871. This war broke out in 1914. The Second World War, that's also written long before the event, to originate between Great Britain and Germany, to strengthen communism as antithesis to the Judeo-Christian culture, and bring about a Zionist state in Israel. Did it achieve this objective? Yes. In fact, after this war, Israel, in its present form, was reinstated under the protection of Britain. And then, interestingly enough, a Third World War, a Middle Eastern war involving Judaism and Islam, and spreading internationally. That's fascinating. Is that on the cards, or what do you think? Certainly sounds like we are on track. Well, here's another quote, just in case people don't like that quote. Mazzini with Pike developed a plan for 3 world wars so that eventually every nation would be willing to surrender its national sovereignty to a world government. The first war was to end the Tsarist regime in Russia, the second to allow the Soviet Union to control Europe, the Third World War was to be in the Middle East between Muslim and Jews and would result in Armageddon. Interesting. Now, how were they going to do it? Let's read what Albert Pike wrote about these wars and how they were going to be unleashed. He wrote, quote, "We shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist," so the destroyer and the atheist, "and we will provoke a formidable social cataclysm which in its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism. Origin of savagery and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the minority of revolutionaries will exterminate these destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, will receive the pure light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer. The destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time." Wow, what a clever plan. So you rub the two systems which you create up against the other. You create atheism as an antithesis to the Judeo-Christian culture. You have these two clash until they rub each other up, and then out of that you will get a new world order where you have a new religion which is far more esoteric and actually honors Satan. Isn't that a rather clever plan? Well, it's very successful. That is why Ordo ab Cao is the verse, if you like, that Freemasonry uses. This is one of their documents, remember, that I photographed in a Masonic lodge.
Okay, we're back on the show here. We're back on the show. So you see those Illuminati guys, they're causing a lot of trouble. And so is our studio audience.
Yes. there's, you know what? I think there's such a buzz in the audience today. It's quite. It feels like we're doing it on location. That's what it feels like we're doing. It doesn't feel like we're in the studio.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It actually is.
And in fact, we have a mic with them, so they can ask questions and get involved in this discussion anytime. But they're
actually during the break, I was actually speaking to a couple of them. I'm just going to ask a couple.
Now
of
they're
questions.
just too busy talking amongst themselves.
Yeah. Now they're have us do all the work, and they get to kind of just sit there and just poke fun at us.
Okay,
just a couple of questions, can I?
Yes.
Okay. So just to go back, and then we're going to move forward. We talked a bit about twin souls, and there's only one twin soul, and you're a unified soul, and probably the only one on the planet right now. Correct? Yes. Okay. Right. So that's a really either you're the only crazy one who came back.
Yes, in the last 2,000 years.
Yes. So okay. We're not going to go there because I was going to mention Jesus.
Yes.
Should we not even touch that?
Let's put it this way. There's been unified souls on the planet off and on, never going back into reincarnation aspect of it, but more a drop-in type of thing. But they would come only for short durations.
Is that a Jesus? Is that what Jesus?
Well, Jesus was a unified, fully enlightened soul that took on a human physicality, I'm doing exactly what he did.
Okay, and how about Buddha?
Those were more enlightened souls, but they were still on their journey of enlightenment. They weren't fully enlightened at that point in time, even with the Buddha.
Okay.
So, because there are more enlightened souls on the planet specifically now, and they're higher up, not fully enlightened, but their consciousness is quite high. So they have the capability to have access to source. The thing is, we all have access to source. It depends on how many filters it runs through before we get it through. And then, of course, our vibration will also allow us to tune into something that may project as a source, may not, because a lot of times there are different belts of consciousness available too.
And at every single one, you have to prove yourself too, right, Frank? I mean, when you raise your vibration, you have to be in that level of awareness, right? Which means you don't act or respond or behave in a way that is of a lower vibration. So, I mean, it's kind of like earning your stripes, is it not?
In a way, you can say that, sure.
Okay, so I wanted to just make it real for people out there in terms of twin souls. So now that you are a unified soul, does that mean you no longer have a desire to be in a relationship?
It has no importance to me.
Okay. Does that mean you no longer attach yourself to a human kind of love?
Yes. No.
Okay.
But I do experience it. I haven't with most of my life, but I have, the tail end of this period of time, I had that experience.
Okay.
Of course.
So you were married.
Yes.
And if I'm getting too personal, just tell me not. But I just want to make it real for people out there.
Yep.
So you were married, and so you had a typical, human type relationship, and you've had children and that kind of thing. You're in a relationship now. How is that different now that you know you're a unified soul? Because when you were married, you didn't know at that point, correct?
I didn't know very clearly. No, that was true. And but at the time, you have to understand, for me, as part of my process was to integrate with the human experience.
Okay.
So there was a mutual agreement with with my wife at the time to come into each other's lives. We're at different spectrums, of course, but at the same time, it allowed me to see and live through a relationship that was more with a very
so human
denser
conditions, like
yes.
all the terms and conditions that fall into that whole human.
Exactly, and I've had 2 kids there, and the kids are quite a bit more enlightened than you know, the average for sure. But they also had the experience of both. So they had the mom that played the traditional Catholic role. This is who I am, and you know, and being that caught up in there, and nothing more. And then there was Dad that, of course, was already different in the first place, because it was just my perspective of the world was totally different. And so my kids got to experience both, and of course they found their own way through it, right? I mean, they really connect with what I do, and of course my son is actually part of collective evolution and does all this other stuff. Yes, and my daughter does some, not what I do exactly, but you know, does some work in that area too.
So now that you're in a relationship now,
yes, and
so as a fully enlightened being, so how is that different? Because I know a lot of people are talking about twin souls, and they think that person might be their twin soul, but you've already got, like, you've already beyond that. So what is a relationship beyond the twin soul? What's that like?
In that case, I mean, usually when you're meeting souls, you're utilizing the opportunity to learn from them. Okay. In a sense, you're there to either, it's always expand each other by either pushing each other's buttons or showing, you know, mirroring or whatever else. You know, that's not totally all of it, but showing different aspects of each other so that they can actually learn from it and step forward. A relationship is not about love and all that stuff, because that's a mind-created thing, but we love everybody unconditional. Our natural state is unconditional love. Okay, we at the mind level create, I love this person, don't love that person, I hate that person, whatever else, but that's just the mind. But at the soul level, who you truly are is unconditional love for everyone. But then there's all the layers and layers of judgment. So in the experience, when 2 people come together, it's learning from each other is really the main mandate, and each one brings something to the table to allow each other to assist. Now, at some point, it's either complementary in the sense where they walk together and they you know, support each other in their direction, or they may be, you know, bumping against each other because each one are trying to clear up their ego programs, right? And you'll have that.
So do you, go ahead.
Yeah, when you're not in need of that part of it, then you get into a relationship and it's totally different, because first of all, you don't feel that you need to have somebody there. It's not important if someone's there or not. And the other part of it is the fact that you now can enjoy that person for whatever they are. You have no judgment for them. You see the beauty in whatever they may be about themselves. Okay, and at that point in time, you can still be in it. But so you'll see, if in a situation like that, if one is having a flammable experience, then you're still neutral. Now, of course, at their level, they may turn around. At the mind level, they're saying, you're cold, you're heartless, you don't love me, blah, 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 and all that stuff, because you do not get involved in my drama. So they're going through drama, and of course, the ego wants to feed off the drama, so it needs to have a player. Now, you're not a player. So now you irritate them in that way. It's like,
so they get even angrier sometimes, right?
Exactly. But I'm not seeing this particular relationship I am in right now. That is not really playing out.
So you don't ever argue? Do you guys argue?
We've never, ever.
Wow, that's amazing.
Never.
Okay, that's what you need to write a book on. Because that would help to shift a lot of people. But that's amazing.
Yeah, and the thing is, the fun part about it, if you're in that state, you can see whoever you're playing with, say in a relationship, they are creating their own little dance, right, with themselves. And because of the fact that even if you're not playing a role that they expect you to play, the mind will create a story around it, you know. And still, it's like you can watch them. It's like this, you know. We're here to push each other's buttons, but you can watch them pushing their own buttons, you know, just because you're there.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it's still an agreement to learn. So for me, it was more an observation.
Okay.
The relationship I'm in right now, it's really experiencing love. But at the same time, there is no expectations, conditions, or anything of whatever it is. But at the same time, it's also able to keep myself somewhat more grounded in the human aspect, because I have a tendency to go into the being state part where I do not, I disappear in a sense where I'm not conscious of everybody.
So do you
Everybody
appear as
becomes
a
movie
vegetable
around
to
her.
us? Do you just appear like a vegetable state to us?
No,
Are you
it's just
actually
not-
gone?
No. I'm still in the physical form, but at the same time, it's like I'm not engaged in a
Okay.
conversation or anything of that nature.
Okay.
So I have to be in that engaged, because you get to a point where you just see everything as energy moving around and
Yes.
with pockets of consciousness. So it's a completely different.
Well,
way
your
of
partner
perceiving.
must be pretty. She must be pretty amazing because she understands all of this. So she must be pretty high herself vibrationally to be able to kind of cope with that.
Well, and that's you know, I've only had 3 relationships, and this is the 3rd one, and she's the first one that actually is very okay with whatever is playing out. It doesn't mean that
Wow.
you know, it might not create some, but it's a growing environment for her, and for me, it's a very grounding environment.
Wow. So
really
it's
good.
it's mutual and it's a
Absolutely.
win-win.
It's absolutely. I did not intend to get into a relationship again after the 2 that I had agreed to, because they were part of my agreements. I recognized them right away. Oh, okay, this is one of my agreements, right? And even though we were off the scale on ways of living and seeing, but there was an opportunity to really understand humanity through whatever was going. So, and it also kept me current with the present human condition and what it can look like. So.
Wow, interesting.
Okay, so we only have an hour left, Franco.
Okay.
So we have so many problems in the world today. What we've got the fleets amassing in the Gulf over there. We've got UFOs battling the Chinese and the
See,
U.S.
I want
Navy.
to talk about the love and the emotion, and he's talking about the defense. You know, this is the typical. This is why you can see the male and then female energies, how different they are. Go.
May I continue? We've got
Yes, sorry.
genetically modified food, nuclear radiation, soil erosion, depopulation agenda, Illuminati gone amok. Franco, what do we do about all this stuff?
Perfect. First of all, we don't judge it. Okay? Let's put it this way. The Illuminatis, yes, they've come on the planet for a long time, and they're hybrids, of course. Many
When you
of the
say
high
hybrids, can
they're
you
half
explain?
reptilian, half human, and they're utilizing the codes for both. But it's not. Neither one are there in their natural state. Of course, we run on software. Okay, so their software, their way of tuning in is quite a different. So in a sense, for example, for you guys to harm somebody else, or even to step on an ant that's walking on the ground, you will have some form of compassion. Oh,
I can't do it.
Yes,
I walk around.
Exactly. Now, in theirs, they can easily wipe out 1 million
Yes,
people
yes.
and feel nothing, or release all types of chemicals and damage to the environment, and not putting the dots together and say, wait a minute, I live here. This is my environment too. I'm affected by it. They can't even put those
Really?
two together. That's how far disconnected they become.
So is that like all the Bushes and the Queen and all
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Who are some of these people? Would you say
Well,
it's
you've named some already. Yes, and then
Rothschilds,
the
Rockefellers,
Rothschilds,
like pretty much the big, powerful people,
Yes,
right?
and
And
they're-
all politicians. How about that?
Yeah.
Some of them also. But the thing is, a lot of them are just been brainwashed and programmed to follow their agenda, because they, if you really look at it, there are not that many of the true. And then, of course, you have the different layers, and those are just indoctrined people that are in a denser state of consciousness that will take on the program.
Would you say
and be part of it.
Obama is one of them?
He's one of the puppets, if you want to call it that.
Okay. He's indoctrinated.
He's still
kind of thing?
preferable to Romney. Okay.
But the thing is,
two
they're
sides
just
of the
playing
same
roles
coin,
here. If
right?
you have to look at it this way, okay? This has been a real challenge for many people, because with the awakening process, with the uncovering, because look, talking about Illuminatis, talking about all the control structures, if you look at it, there's so many levels. Because if you look at it, education, governmental, monetary, medicine,
Science,
energy,
even, right? Even science.
of course, is all infiltrated and been put key players to maintain the structure.
And they've done this on purpose, right?
So
Franco,
Yes.
like they've done this to suppress us on purpose.
why are they suppressing us?
Good question.
Like, what's their motivation to do that?
yeah.
Well, the thing is, for them to continue suppressing us or continue to keep us in the position they want, which is enslaved and following their agenda, which is becoming their personal slaves and maintaining a certain structure, you can't have free minds that are awakening. And the fact is, if the consciousness and even, like for example, even religion is the same thing, it's all control. For us to realize that, wait a minute, we are source beings and we have full access to whatever we do, and we have all this technology that we do not need to be enslaved where we're, you know, realistically, we're living in fear, we're living in survival.
We're living in debt.
We're living in debt, false and otherwise. You know, feeling that, you know, everything is defined by, you know, what our statues are and what we can do, accomplish, and whatever else. So all we're doing is trying to survive. We're in survival mode all the time. Okay? So if we're so busy in survival, we never get a chance to look at ourselves and say, wait a minute, why are we doing this? You know, we don't need to.
When you put it that way, it makes me think, are we even further along than the caveman days? Because weren't we in survival
Not
then
very
too?
much. Not very much.
So here we are.
But
I mean, we got
more.
You talk about that these guys, these illuminoids, reptilian shape-shifting alien hybrids, blood drinking, and it goes on. But you say that that they don't even know that they could wipe out 1 million people and they can destroy their own environment where they're living, right? And when I look at things like I don't know if chemtrails are real or not, but if they're real, what they're saying is it's putting poisonous chemicals into the air, into the soil. We're breathing all that in. It's going into our food. We got genetically modified food that is now proving to be very harmful to humans. Nuclear radiation out of control. I mean, there's so many things that, and here we are on the planet, and I'm going, how are we even going to get through? It seems like there's just so many, like a perfect storm of all these very horrible developments that, you know, that there doesn't seem to be sometimes a future on this planet or on this plane. I'm not sure.
Yep.
You know, are things going to shift, or what's going on there?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is with all that is playing out right now, okay, specifically now, we're experiencing the most amount of density, because as much as we've experienced density, disconnect, like you said right now, what you were saying about, you know, what I had briefly described, and you are well aware of, you know, the fact that they're not conscious enough to even realize what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Look at any human that is living their life and has no consciousness. They will run a company, do something, drop off toxic waste, this and that, and they're all in the illusion, I'm survival, I have to do this. How many people have you talked to and say, why are you doing what you're doing? In the sense, you're damaging the environment, you're destroying the food, you're doing all this stuff, well, I got to make a living. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, and they can't see it. So to them, they're just another step further where saying, well, we have the mandate, and our mandate is to, yes, reduce the population to 500 million people, enslave everybody, take over, and do that. And we can't have people that are going to be having functional capabilities, because they're going to realize, it's like the movie, the Ants movie, whatever it is, they're going to realize we're outnumbering them 1 million to 1. Mm-hmm. And it's like all of us, and we say, well, you have to understand, we're choosing to participate. The moment we say we're not participating,
but it's hard for an individual to do that, because for, you know, a part of, you know, what you're just saying, I'm reminded of the fluoride in the water, the mercury in the vaccines, that is it's impairing our development. It's impairing kids' brains.
Yeah.
And how do we stop that? Because we're not. It's hard for one person
stop the chemtrails
to think about even doing that. And chemtrails, yeah. How can you even have a discussion about chemtrails? Because you're immediately branded some sort of a conspiracy freak.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the way the system is designed.
Yes,
because
on purpose.
It's on purpose, because at the moment, you know, truth is seen as a lie or conspiracist, or if anything that follows what has been mandated as to be true, which is not, is acceptable. So of course you're going to have that resistance. It's the moment. And look at how many people. I mean, I had to be even careful what I was saying. I mean, I'm much more liberal now in a sense, but that doesn't mean I didn't get the Suits visit. You know, where, you know, you get some of their higher ranks showing up and saying, "What are you doing?"
What, the Men in Black?
Yeah.
So you're saying you've had Men in Black or Illuminati come to visit you?
Absolutely.
Now, have they threatened you? What have they said to you?
They have. I mean, first of all, it was a very elaborate offer, meaning we know what you can do. We know where you operate at. Why don't you have fun and come and play with us? We'll give you all the money you ever want, billions of dollars. You can have you can dance and play with all the starlets. You can be with anybody. You can have anything. You can kill someone. You're covered. You can you be free to drive like a maniac. Do whatever you want. Like they sweetened the pie to make it look like. And I'm looking at them and I say, and is that supposed to be appealing? I go, what is that all about?
So did they physically come to you, or did they come in an altered state?
No, they came physically.
Okay.
The one time, physically. I mean, another time they never got close to at the time, but I saw them there.
Okay.
But they came in physical. This goes back several years ago. I mean, we're talking over 10 years ago now.
Now, so you said, and that's supposed to be appealing, so what did they say?
You don't know what you're missing and so forth. I said, no, I do. You don't know what you're missing, in a sense, because you are now not free. And I came here to assist humanity to free themselves. And that's it. To me, I have no value in the material stuff that you guys are playing with, because it means nothing to me.
Okay, so Franco, if they're so powerful, okay, and what's to stop them from killing you? They're not held accountable either, right?
They're not, but the thing is, when you're emitting a certain frequency and you are now having a support system, then they don't. You almost become invisible to them.
So you're protected.
In a sense, if you want to call it that. You're only self-protecting, really. But it's not even so much a protecting. You're outside of their range of even doing it. So it's like, how do I explain? If somebody wants to do harm, they may go up to somebody and then all of a sudden they feel that they can't.
Is it like there's a shield and they can't penetrate
No,
it?
it's an energy that you emit that does not support the darkness that they're in at that moment to do it.
It's like the Jedi mind trick. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Okay, so can we?
If you're in fear, then of course you're more susceptible, because now you're creating the opening. Yes.
Okay.
So the point is, if they're there in front of you and they're saying, well, we can do this, this, and this, and this, and you're not even registering with it, then it's like a bully. A bully needs somebody to bully that is in fear.
Okay, that's a really good analogy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's the role that they're playing, is the bully. But we have to understand their purpose on the planet, as much as it was implanted at some point in time, and I won't even go into that because we won't have any mere amount of time to discuss that part. But the fact that they're on the planet, we expanded our polarity experience to levels that we were not able to do so before, to the point of complete what we call darkness, but nothing is complete darkness, to light. Now, in actual fact, before, the spectrum was from consciousness being source to forgetting source was this much of a span to grow through.
Okay.
They came along, when they changed the playground, it went further. So in actual fact, we got to experience much more separation, to the point where we can actually destroy ourselves and have no consciousness that we're all one. Not only all one. When I'm talking about one, we're all aspects of each other, but every part, what you're feeling, what you're emanating, your consciousness shift affects every single one of us, because we're all from the same frequency, same source consciousness. That's the reason that we're getting assistance from beings from other planets, is because we are in the center of our galaxy, and we play a very vital role in the effect, because they're all interconnected with us. So us destroying ourselves and wiping it, having a nuclear meltdown.
That's never going to happen, right? We're never going to have it. Do we really have to worry about Iran and a nuclear potential?
Are we going to destroy the planet? No. We've taken a lot of steps in that regard.
And you do work on this, correct?
Yes.
You do a lot of work when you're sleeping or whatever. You go out of your body, and you work on different timelines, correct?
Correct.
Can you talk, Hugh, do you mind if we go down that road?
No, I'd like to.
Can we talk a little bit about that and timelines and beyond 2012, and where it looks like some of us are going and maybe some of us aren't?
Okay. Basically, each one of us have multitudes of timelines. Each timeline is like a stream of movie with different events in it. Okay? So we have all these timelines. As we learn and achieve a certain level of consciousness, we shift timelines. So that means we do not need to play that one movie that's mapped out, because that movie was specifically through a certain state of consciousness. Meaning I needed all these wake-up calls and whatever else. So each time you make a shift, other things play out. Well, the planet itself, of the collective consciousness, has a multitude of what we can call timelines.
Okay.
And each timeline has a certain amount of event. So if you're looking at some of the predictions that were made, they were specifically on specific timelines that had those Armageddon and whatever else that may have been there. But as the collective consciousness has been shifting, we are shifting off those bands of frequency, those movies, and we're no longer having the same
Okay, so does that mean those are happening in a parallel reality? Is that fair to say that there could be another parallel reality where those things are happening? It's just where we're not?
The movie is running. Are we the observer on the movie? It's like going onto the TV. There's a multitude of channels running at the same time. It depends on what channel we flick on and we watch the movie. It's the same thing.
Okay.
So today I want to watch this, and that's what I'm going to watch. But it's not going to be of going back and forth so much, because once you've experienced, for example, horror or whatever else, okay, I got my fill with horror, now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to look at something that's a little more challenging, but then later I'm going to start looking at romance or whatever it is. So in this case, it's like, do I need to have all these intense experiences for us to wake up as a collective?
Okay.
So as the shift is going on, so when we're working on the timelines, we've taken out the booby traps. Okay, and what, I don't know if you've ever seen the snakes and ladder type of thing.
Yes.
So certain events like 9/11 was one of the booby traps, because at that time it actually shifted the consciousness of humanity down a timeline or two.
Down, we went down, not up.
Exactly, but then it also prepared us to go up afterwards, because then more people started to realize, wait a minute, that was all not only an inside job. Wait a minute, there's more controls coming into place, and more people were able to utilize as a wake-up. But that event, because it was so traumatic that all of a sudden there's terrorists, it accentuated more fear, more idea that we are not safe, and that we now have to give more of our control to our governmental system. So in actual fact, we started to see the world even less loving, because how could we destroy all these people, innocent people, even though there's much more of that happening all over the world anyways.
Yes,
but that one was focal point because it's New York, and it's because it's in an industrial, more conscious world per se, because it's in the mainstream.
Right.
There's much more stuff, more intense than that, happening all over the world.
We just don't hear about it.
Look at all these little wars, the wars that they're having. How many people get killed in comparison to what even happened, and that was staged in the first place. But that was one of the markers in there that would come in there. Now,
but even these wars that have come up, a lot of them, whether it's Libya or Syria or Iraq, I mean, a lot of those, in some ways, resulted from what happened in 9/11. So in some ways, you're saying that it's preparing us to move up, but you can look at the situation and say, hey, things are, I'm not sure I'm seeing things getting better.
Yes, and what we're experiencing now, and this is what the part you have to understand, is that what we're experiencing now is going to even a deeper state of not only fear, but and so forth. So to get our fill. It's, for example, like a lot of, what happens with people, we get it caught up in the thing. Say you have a certain experience in your life that you really don't like, okay? But like we were talking earlier, but we have the choice to shift that at any point in time, but we're not there yet. Okay? So, because it's like, no, I don't like my misery, but I'm also too afraid to step out of my misery because of the unknown. Okay? And to a point where,
better the devil you know.
Better the devil that I know than the one that I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So we stay in that. Eventually it gets so to the point that you got your fill of it, and you say, no, I can't even stay this anymore. I'm ready to face what's next. And make a choice. And this is what's happening right now, is everybody's going into the fear of what's happening with their bodies because of the not only the medical system, but also the chemtrails, all the stuff that we've been exposed chemically and otherwise in food, water, air, and everything else. And also all the stuff that's projected in the media. Because if you look in the media now, even if you watch movies now, it's all about alien invasions and that. Because now we've created another boogeyman sort of thing, just again to go deeper and deeper. And now, of course, we're now stimulating another war. And of course, they want to go into World War III and all that stuff. But it's not going to happen. It's going to get into it. But more and more people are starting to realize, what are we doing? You can tell how many soldiers are now going, what are we doing there?
Yes.
And some of them are looking and saying, we're being told that they're the enemy, but we're the ones that are going there to pull them out of their house, kill them innocent, people that are not even fighting with us. And all they want is, leave us alone, let us have our home and let us have peace, right? I mean, we're the ones that are going there with the tanks and everything else and the guns and so forth, like for now. But you see what's happening here too. I mean, look at how militant the police have become, how more militant, you know, is that. So this is just going into the depth where people get to the point of getting their fill because of this is all
so they get so
stage.
desperate they have no choice. Is that what
they get to the point and saying, enough, we're not afraid of you anymore, we're standing up. Like even the stuff that with the Occupy movements, you know, that was stimulated from, not from higher consciousness, we were talking from the elite. They wanted to create riots so people would turn around and say, see, we can't leave them alone. Look, we have to go in. But it didn't work out that way because people started to come together and start saying, no, we're not playing with this. And it actually backfired on them. They're saying, wait a minute, they're coming together. They're being peaceful. And of course, they're going around hugging people, and policemen and so forth, and they can be as cold as exterior as they can, but they all have hearts in themselves, and they say, wait a minute, you know.
I can relate,
in that movement, actually, instead of being riots, they were loose that we need to now use more military force, more you know, control structures. It turned out to be, no, we started challenging the system, you know. And that's how you change the system. You don't go and judge the system. You don't fight the system. You don't go in with anger. You go in with, no, we're not playing with that any longer.
So you go in with love, basically. And it's almost a bad word to use, that word love, in that kind of context. But you kind of
interpretation, yes. So it's a matter of, you know, coming in and stepping in and saying, okay, we're not playing with this any longer. So what's happening now is we're bringing it to the level, even the financial stuff and everything else, to finally we say, it's time for us to change this. But what is helping us right now, I mean, we do have assistance. And of course, you know, we have had indigo children for a while, rainbow, crystalline children. We have star seeds that have come in. And these are all pre-tuned differently, emanating different frequency and so forth to create an awakening. But we also have beings on the planet that are assisting us so that we do not self-destroy.
Beings,
so
what does that mean?
Beings are basically, we're having Pleiadians, Syrians coming on.
Like in human form, you mean?
Yes,
when you say they're incarnate, yeah.
Some in body, others stay behind the scenes. And they basically are making sure that the Illuminatis, all the control structures, don't get out of hand. They allow just enough to continue to perpetuate the darkness for the people to get their fill.
And make their choice.
To make their choice. But they will not let any catastrophe which will totally change the...
So do the Illuminati know this? Do they know that, you know, their hands are being slapped if they go too far?
Why don't they just surrender?
Because they can't.
Come over to our
because then we
side.
wouldn't make the choice, right?
They're still playing the bully role because we are still in need of that bully role. Because energetically, we're still supporting them to be in place. But that's all changing.
This may be really twisted then. Okay, if they know this and they know that they're actually only doing a job, are they in a way higher vibrational because they're taking on a really nasty role for the sake of humanity?
They are becoming more conscious and their vibration is changing. So that's why the rituals that they were doing with the blood and the sacrifices and all that stuff that you hear at the Bohemian Grove and all that other stuff going.
Did you see the Alex Jones film?
I mean, it is. But at the same time, the reason they're doing that is it's a very archaic way of connecting to a satanic consciousness. And a satanic consciousness doesn't mean there's a devil or anything of that nature. It is a pocket of consciousness that is self-destructive. In a sense, it plays in a dark role. So through these rituals, and that's why when they do it, they allow the sacrificee, the one that's going to be sacrificed, to go into a horrendous horror state before, because it, you know, screeching, whatever else, it creates a certain frequency, right? Now, again, you know, when you're looking at that, it's still part of the role, because the soul that's
But are they aware that they're doing this? Like, are they consciously aware they're doing this, Franco, or do they have to buy into their program too?
Well, it's like this. Do we kill an animal to feed off? Because they feed off it. Okay? In a sense, they're not like eating it to ingest in the physicality, it's to feed their state of consciousness, their vibration.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
But they're also noticing it's getting harder and harder for them to do, and more are awakening. And even a lot of their puppets are awakening, and that's why there was that big mass exit.
Even their puppets are awakening.
Wait, what exit? What mass exit?
Well, a lot of the top people in corporations and so forth in the banking structures are saying, I'm getting out. They're resigning, they're stepping out, because they basically say, I'm not playing this game any longer.
So are these bad Illuminati guys, are they, when you talk about everybody's from source, everybody is one, are they part of that one?
Yes, absolutely.
So they're from source too?
Yes, absolutely.
In a
and
way,
they have a soul
for us.
just like ours, and they also desire to awaken. Now, the thing is, they've come in. See, we have to understand, the soul has the highest potential of what it wants to do. But when it comes into a physicality, it's dependent on the mind construct. That's why they interbreed. They keep the bloodlines pure because of the codes.
So that's the royal family. That's the typical. So that's a giveaway that the royal family is the Illuminati then, because they're the only ones I know who keep bloodlines pure.
Well, there are more. You're talking about if you're going into the Rothschilds and all that other stuff.
They do that too?
Who?
Yeah.
The Rothschilds?
Some of the top ones, they're all within, they keep the bloodlines as clean as possible, or at least they get exposed to something that will
They're
keep
all
the
candidates for Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
Right? Sorry. Okay.
I didn't intend to go into this, but
no,
you guys are bringing
we
it into
did. We did.
So with all of that, I mean, they're playing a role, okay? And when they come into it, the soul says, okay, this is the role. I'm going to play this role because that's what's still needed there, and I'm going to learn from it as best as possible. But at the same time, the support mechanisms that for them are also shifting because our vibration has been changing. Okay.
Yep.
You know, we're just completing our third cycle, 5,125 years. Okay, and we've had 3 of them. This is what 2012 is all about. The December 21st is completing this last cycle. Now, 25 years ago, we had a harmonic convergence, and that actually started to accelerate the vibration of the frequency, the Schumann frequency of the planet. So prior to that, for 5,100 years, we were working at 7 hertz, and now since then, since 1986 until now, it's been graduating, and we're going to hit 13 hertz at the end of this year.
December 21st, correct?
Exactly.
Okay,
so
that whole Mayan thing, there's truth to that.
Yes, it's a shift, of course.
So what happens when the Schumann number hits 13?
We reach a tipping point where the negative is now slightly positive, so that we now go off the scale and we're now going into a positive. And actually what it does is it creates a powerful wave of consciousness shift with people. It's like an opening of your eyes, and all of a sudden all the souls that have made a lot of the progress will able to see the world differently.
So Franco, this consciousness shift, is it so big as to be a dimensional shift as well? Are we moving
into going into a 4th dimensional consciousness?
From the 3rd?
Yes.
That is
our
so
planet,
exciting.
We need a whole nother show for this, or even more. But our planet, the way it was designed and everything else, okay, even though we were operating in a 3rd dimensional consciousness for 15,000 years, slightly over that, planet Earth was never designed for a 3rd dimensional consciousness. It was supposed to start there, but it was also designed to move. Now, some planets maintain a consistency of 3rd dimension, so that means if you want to go to grade 3, just to give you an analogy, you're going to go to the school that specializes in grade 3. But coming to our planet is saying, okay, we're in grade 3, but our school is built to go up to grade 11.
Okay. Okay.
So, but the problem is with what we've got involved with the modification and the Illuminati control and whatever else came in, we stayed in grade 3. So now it's saying, okay, the planet cannot sustain grade 3 anymore because we've gotten too technically advanced and too destructive to self that we need to move on. Plus, of course, we're going through another process which is going to take a whole time to explain that. But as a universe...
We don't need another show for that. We need another dimension for this next.
Yeah. And if you're looking at it, the whole universe is shifting in consciousness too. All the vibrations are changing on. It's not just us.
That's a really good point. So we're affecting all of the planets and all of beings from other planets.
We're part of it, yes.
Okay.
And we are affected. That's why there's so much interest in what we do, because there's a whole other explanation of why our Earth exists the way it is, even our physicality, and why it can do what other physicalities can't do, and why our planet is very unique in comparison to other planets. Even in Pleiadians, as much as they may be conscious in one way, they don't have the same physicalities that have the same levels of sensorial and also capabilities, because our physicalities are made from 12 different species, really, and in a petri dish, and we won't even go there.
So we are an experiment.
Yes, but it was an amazing experiment, because the experiment was to take the best from all of them and create a physicality. And then the planet itself, if you look at all the species of plants, all the species of the animal kingdom, fish, or the oceanic, you want to call it, insect, they're coming from all different planets. And we were supposed to be a botanical garden here, in a sense. We were supposed to be the keeper of species from all over.
Yes.
And our physicalities are, even though there are 12 different species with
within
12
us,
DNA
yes.
in one.
So we're a hybrid?
Yes,
Illuminati ain't got nothing on us.
No, exactly.
Except we can't shapeshift yet.
But we will.
We can. But
yes,
we
can. We just don't know it yet.
We're not there yet. But we have the capability to do much more.
We can jump planets. Come on. We don't even
do
need,
it right now.
We don't need Air Canada. Right? We could just literally, I think that's amazing. See how much potential we have, right?
I just want to go to Arizona. Okay.
As long as you don't doubt that, and you don't have any part of the mind that says that can't be possible unless I get onto the airplane, you can material yourself there.
Okay. Okay, let's take a little break.
Okay.
Just a little one.
Then
we got about half an hour left.
2012 and where we're going.
Yeah, of course.
And who's going.
That's right. That's what we have to get
and
to.
if you want to get on that plane, what we have to do to get on that plane.
Okay, so we got a Ron Paul video. Not sure what this is about, but let's watch it and we'll come back.
Is Ron
with
Paul
Franco
Illuminati?
DeNicola right after this. We'll be
Another puppet. They're all puppets. Let's put it this way.
On headlines, but people still don't acknowledge it.
The idea of a real gray state is terrifying.
It's a battle for your mind and your choice and what you do with that choice.
It's a game of numbers, and we're losing.
And it's been said that you should never doubt that a small group of people who have firm convictions can change the world, because that's the only way it's ever happened before. Liberty doesn't come from our government. Sometimes they think they're passing it out, and sometimes they are always restricting as if it's their liberty rather than our liberty.
We should fight tooth and nail for our freedom, because without our freedoms, we're not America.
We have permitted our government to undermine our civil liberties, all in the name of safety and security. Never sacrifice your liberties for safety or security, because you'll end up with neither.
This is what's happened the last 4 years. The evidence is out on the table. The monetary system doesn't work. The foreign policy doesn't work. Leads to endless wars. The economic system is deeply in debt.
Once they strip the rights from you, you will pay hell to get them back.
This document is the only thing that's going to save us, and if Barack Obama refuses to follow it, as he has demonstrated time and time again, nothing's going to change, folks.
What's happened now is that you're seeing the mobilization of federalized police,
National Guard in our city streets, and this stuff is happening. We are living in a militarized police state without anyone acknowledging that we are.
Military now can arrest any American citizen. No lawyer, no charges, no trial, can be put in prison indefinitely.
If you study history and you know that you allow this kind of abuse of power by the federal government, I fear what happens to us down the road.
It's kind of like the people on the Titanic who didn't get off the ship.
They call us dangerous. Of course we're dangerous. We're dangerous to the status quo, and the people have been ripping us off.
Should we be following blindly like this, or should we stand up?
Change this country, go back to our roots, decide that we want to live in a free country and not in a country rapidly drifting toward totalitarianism. We need to reverse the course.
Really stand up for what's right, and that is a scary place to be.
Hello everyone, this is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth TV. As technology continues to advance on an exponential curve, the global elite are continuing to find new and innovative ways to track and trace everything you do. We are already under the watchful eye of Big Brother through the monitoring of our online activity, but now the elite want to take it one step further by collecting your biometric information. In fact, one of the biggest and boldest steps in this direction is currently underway in India, where all 1.2 billion of its residents are currently being outfitted with a unique identification number.
India's unique identification program started just a year ago. If it succeeds, India will become the first country in the world using biometric data for identity purposes on a national scale. Its first phase is aimed at the poor.
Each number will be tied into 3 pieces of biometric data: fingerprints, iris scans, and a picture of the face. The biometric identity number will be entered every time someone accesses services from government departments, driver's license offices, and hospitals, as well as insurance, credit card, telecom, and banking companies. They are currently processing over 1 million people a day. Now, they say that it is not mandatory, but if you want to have a bank account, if you want to have a driver's license, if you want access to government services, hospitals, food programs, you're going to have the number, so essentially you do need to get it. Mahatma Gandhi must be rolling in his grave. As the founding father of an independent India, he was known for his resistance to tyranny through massive civil disobedience. But sadly, now India has become the testing ground for an eventual global cashless society. Canadians are also slowly going down this path. In fact, according to Citizenship and Immigration Canada, implementing biometrics will bring Canada in line with other countries. And the linking of our biometric information on a shared database with the American authorities is moving us another step closer to a North American Union. There are products available on the market, such as this RFID blocking passport cover, so that you can protect your information. You see, in this Big Brother Orwellian nightmare, people being treated like criminals will become second nature. And the ones who are pulling the strings know that it works best if you train them when they're young. This is well underway and currently being carried out by the Free Masonic Lodges of Canada through their initiative, Masonichip, which stands for Masonic Child Identification Program, where parents are being encouraged to give their child's...
Now that's scary.
See, it's happening right here in Canada.
Yeah, but you see, now that's scary, okay? But we have a choice. We don't have to buy into that. If we want to choose a different timeline...
Really?
Yes.
Franco, is that true? I mean, how do we... It's right there. It's right there. It's happening in the world today.
But is it happening, Franco?
It is happening because we're participating. We're part of it. We're here, and we're even though it's happening, are you choosing to either be part of it or not? And the thing is not to go, and this is why I wanted to clarify one thing. It's not for us to look at their role as they're the bullies, they're the bad, we need to judge them and so forth.
And hate them.
And hate them and all that stuff. I mean, they're just playing a role, like we were saying earlier. I mean, a role is a role. However, look at it this way. That role is allowing us to finally discover who we are at a grander state where we no longer need to play with all of that. Even though the programming and all that, this will all reverse as we're going through this process of the shifting that we're going into, where the energies and frequencies that we will work on, and even with the control structures in place, will not be sustainable any longer. The energy will not be supported because people will not feed it through fear as much anymore. But there's going to be some intense stuff coming through because of the fact of, as the monetary systems and other systems start going down, people go into panic, and especially if there's all other things
storm
going
before
on.
the calm, in other words.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But that storm is serving. That storm is giving us the opportunity to really feel the last bit of that energy and intensity, and then saying, all right, that's it. We're moving forward.
Okay, so can we look forward to a moneyless society?
Absolutely.
See?
Absolutely. The thing is...
When?
That it's going to take a little while, because the thing is, there's going to be the process that's going to occur. I mean, we have some stages coming into play. I mean, we're going to shift into a fourth, and then later on in 2016 and 17, I mean 15, 16, we're going to...
So like 4 years? We only have 4 years to wait?
Yeah.
Lots of time to build your Merkaba.
But the thing is that we're not looking at, completely money apart. But say within the next 2 years, the power that we've given money, the fact that where we do anything and everything for it will be completely, will be drastically minimized. The debts will be cleared up, and the money will be distributed to a fashion to keep people flowing until they get accustomed to our natural state, which our natural state is non-ownership, complete sharing, and being supporting with one another, because that's our natural state.
So to make that real, for people who are paying mortgages, the banking system, the stock market, what happens to all of this?
Okay, We could get into that.
Oh my goodness.
We only have like 20 minutes left.
I
We
know,
have to
but
get
we
down
have
to what's going to happen by 2017.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
And I wanted to ask you because, and you said, like, what's the jump? What does the jump look like if we're transitioning to another country?
Like if we don't want to see what we were just watching before the show, if I don't want to go down that road, what's the other road that we could possibly be going down? Like that's what's happening, right? There's a split happening, right? That's what 2012 is about.
There isn't a split per se. There's two movies running at the same time, and you're going to see one movie and another movie. The split really happens is how I interpreted what's happening around me and what I need to be involved in or not. For example, if there's going to be a disaster or war someplace, you don't need to have that experience because the fact that you are part of that shifted consciousness and saying, I don't need that, you will know inside, okay, it's time for me to leave, and you don't even know there's military equipment coming in, per se, just an example. Or there's an earthquake going to occur or something, or some of it is going to end up in the sea. You're going to say, okay, I feel I have to go. And so I'll move and I'll leave wherever you go. And then whoever needs to participate there. So let's put it this way. I say a disaster occurs, okay? The ones that have chosen that specific disaster to leave the physicality, they'll be there and will have that experience. The ones that will use it as a wake-up call, meaning that they may be injured or have certain traumatic intensities, they will be there. The ones that do not need to have either will leave and know when to leave. So anytime even a tsunami happens and you say, well, look at all those victims, well, they all had signed up for it, including even the 9/11. Even they signed up and say, okay, I'm going to leave that way. Because there's a role that's being played and says, okay, I need to leave the physicality. I leave this way, then I'm going to create a ripple effect within my family, which will create judgment, blah, 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 and all that stuff is a wake-up call for them. But I also decided to leave. So I'm going to leave. So what's going to happen once we shift over and we go into the positive, the people that are in a more awakened state and are ready for it will shift into a fourth dimensional consciousness, so they'll see the world differently. But more than 2/3 will not. They'll say, what happened? Nothing happened, right? But they're also going to feel something's changed. Even though they're still playing their old role, they're still going to feel something has changed. But the ones that actually feel will come to the point where, okay, the world looks totally different. Hey, we have power to change this, and they're going to start taking steps to accentuate the changes that are in alignment, which means we don't need this, and this.
But are they going to continue to get resistance from?
They will to some degree, but not in the same level. It's not. You're not going to have the control structure having the same power any longer. Now, again, there will be certain amounts still in place while it fades, because there's a 2-year window that either you get on board on the you shift into a fourth dimensional consciousness where you are becoming more awake, or you have to leave the planet, meaning I'm going to leave through what? Natural disasters come and cause the death, whatever it is, viruses, whatever it's going to take that it can utilize to leave.
So this is 2013 and 2014, or is the 2-year window?
By the end of 2014, they will need to either be on the planet or leave.
So anybody who is still, is it fair to say that anybody who's still on the planet by 2014 is shifting, and anybody else has died?
Well, I've left, yes. And that's already started.
So that means the population is going to be reduced then, significantly, by 2014?
Yes.
How is that?
Are you serious?
But there are others coming into play too, so there's still a cycle, but the population will decrease, absolutely. But it won't be influenced by, the Illuminati going in and wiping them out, because even if the role that they may play will only accentuate the souls that need to leave anyways. Because they choose. Yep. Now we have to understand, as a soul, it's not a tragic. I'll step out.
Yep.
I'll go into a non-form state. I'm going to pick and choose if I want to go back on Earth, or I'm going to go back to another planet, which is the third dimensional consciousness planet.
Okay, so there is going to be another planet where they can still continue to play out that role.
Yeah, it already exists, and there are.
But it's not Mother Earth. It's not Earth. It's an Earth.
It's not Earth, and it doesn't have the same physicalities in the sense where it has the same capabilities, but at the same time, it is specifically designed for that. But it doesn't have a control structure like we have here, so it's actually easier to navigate through because you don't have so much opposition of energies against you. And because here we've had that, that's why it's been so difficult to shift. That's why an awakening process on this planet, until the extra vibration frequency going on, the alignments of the planets, and that's why we were talking astrology and all that, these planets are all aligning to create certain channels of frequencies and so forth. So all of that is participating part of this shift. The sun itself, the solar flares, the actual radiation frequency that's coming off the sun is actually increased too. So not only is our planet vibrating higher, the sun is also emitting a different level of frequency, UV, to help, again, transform, to restart and transform our physicalities, nature, all the animal kingdom and so forth. It's all preparing for this process that we're going through. So even the greenhouse gas stuff is all, it's not real. That's only a teeny minuscule part of it. The pollution that we're causing, yes, we're damaging the ecosystem, that's true. But the warming up of the planet is really the sun's doing. And the polar shifts and all that stuff that's going on is still part of the master plan to recode and restructure the planet and allow us to go into that fourth dimensional consciousness.
So at this point in time, 2/3 are not going to make this shift, correct?
Let's put it this way. A third has approximately, that can change.
Okay, but at this
so
point.
So far at this point, a third has said, we're not going to make it, so we're going to play the devil's advocate. We're going to play the intense role. Okay. We're going to be the ones going in and doing whatever, like going into the wars or whatever else. To create that energy so that we can have everybody else wrap up the rest of their part
so
of their
2/3 will be. So we have
1/3. The other third is still on the fence, approximately, and still has. The soul is saying, "I really like to do it, but I'm going to play with as much darkness as possible until I can actually make the shift. I'm going to get to the tilting point where I'm fed up, and then I make it."
So it is fair to say that. Let's say half and half. So it's fair to say that
could be half and half, yes.
by 2014, the world population can be reduced from 7 billion to 3.5. Will we see that drastic a reduction at this point in time?
Yes,
okay.
Possible.
Okay.
Again, you have to understand. These, all I can tell you is
anything
the changes
can change.
that occur. But remember, these are all on specific timelines, and we are changing in consciousness.
Well,
so a lot of
possible
events.
because the 3.5 billion people who are watching the show right now could say, "I'm not going to do that," and we're going to go the other way. So then the whole population is going to ascend, right? Because we have 3.5 billion people watching the show right now.
Well, so the point is, when you're looking at that, that's the purpose of what we're doing with here.
Yeah.
Is to help people to realize, wait a minute, this is part of the process. Because realistically, what's happening now? We're in a purge and clear. This is the reason why people are feeling so many emotions coming up, so many different things, even stuff that they felt.
And breakups and losing jobs and
whatever. Those are all experiences to create the environment for you to make a shift in your own consciousness, so that you can finally say, I don't need to play this game in this human form of the way that I need to play it, or whatever, so that you can step out of it. Because you look at it, we can have the most intense experiences and so forth, and whatever else may be playing in our life. So we're saying, well, my life is horrible. The moment you shift your view, what do you mean it's horrible?
Yeah.
It's just an experience.
Yeah.
And if I'm not going to play with this, I go play with something else. But when we're in it, it seems like it's like the end of the world. Somebody's still lamenting the whole thought, look, my dad treated me this way. He always called me a loser. This is why my life is that way. No, dad played a role. You asked him to play the role.
And you're still hanging on to it.
And you're still hanging on to it. And you know what happens to hanging on? The thing is, this is the reason for letting go of the past, letting go of any experiences. Because every experience, first of all, you need to understand, you cannot make a mistake. There's no such thing. Okay? You can misunderstand something, yes. But you can't make a mistake in choice or something of that nature. So, for example, we have a multitude of probabilities that we can choose from, a lot of paths in front of us. Now, depending on the state of consciousness, we either can see them or not. So, say that you made a choice at age 20, okay? Just as an example, here we are at age 20, we have a choice. Do I go do this or do I go do that? In that state of consciousness, whatever it is, you made one choice. Now, it includes a whole multitude of new choices, but also experiences. And then along the way, you're looking back and say, why did I ever do that?
Yeah.
I made a mistake. I should have never done. I should have gone down that path. But at that state, you couldn't see that, first of all. Second of all, without that choice and having all those unfoldments, you wouldn't be where you are now.
You wouldn't even see it was a mistake. So it's not a mistake, really.
So to look at it in the state of consciousness that I am now, and to look back at something I made a choice then, it's not going to work because you're in a different state of consciousness now and awareness. So example, if you were going to relive your life and you were brought back with the memory and the consciousness you have now, the awareness and everything that you learned, and you're going to go back to age 20, or in your case, we'll have to go back to 15 because you're such a young girl.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Oh,
you at that point in time, at that point in time, you're going to make all different choices. You're going to navigate and say, well, I'm not going to do that, because you already know it. You don't need those experiences. Of course, you're going to be different.
Yes.
Now, it's the same thing. So the thing is, we need to look at it and say, okay, that was my experience. What was my lesson there? What did I need to learn? I take that learning from it and I move on. So that's why the past is a journey. It's a journey. Like even coming here, you know, you're not going to look at everything that you saw on the way here on your transit ride or anything of that nature. You're here. You're in the moment. You're right here. And that's where we're in this consciousness at this moment. What are my probabilities? What are my choices?
But we have to ask the question.
Well, here's what I want to get to. I'm not sure this what you want to get to, but we only got 10, 15 minutes left. And we're talking about the shift that's going to go on. Well, what's it going to look like? Now, I read something by Drunvalo Melchizedek. Something is like that it's going to be something he said that all the false or man-made materials won't survive the transition. So things like acrylic or and even nuclear materials that are man-made, they're not able to survive the transition. So to me, that's good news. That means that's how we get out of our nuclear mess that we're in. But
yes, a lot of that will change. Even the toxicity in the water, air, and all that stuff will start as we continue. It won't be sustained, because look at it this way: we operate in bands of frequency. Okay, so for us to have a certain experience, we need to be in that band of frequency. It's like a channel. Okay, we have the radio on a certain channel. We're going to get that hard rock or whatever it is on that channel. But when we go to the next channel, we get classic. Now, the hard rock is not going to be picked up. It may be still in that form, but it's not supported energetically on the planet. So that will transform back to a more natural state of frequency. So you can take a toxic that may be toxic, but will now no longer be toxic because it will transform. Now there is also technology that will assist that as we go along. So that will change. Yeah, exactly. So a lot of, like, that's why I said briefly before, things will start to reverse. You know, even the aging process, because we will make a lot of changes within our physicality that we can actually live 1,000 years if you want to. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of changes that will go around. So these shifts that we're going into is just really retuning our whole experience.
Okay.
And by the time we get to 2017, so we got fourth dimensional, and then we step into fifth dimensional by 2015, going into 16 and 17. And then, sorry, 15, 16, and then at 2017, now everybody is on the same page.
So wait a second. 2014 is the two-part window, the 2-year window, and then after 2014, we're in fourth dimension, or how does that work? Sorry.
So fourth dimension, basically, if you want to understand, when we step in, the planet itself shifts into fourth dimension, and anyone that is ready will shift into fourth dimension. The rest will stay in third dimension, still playing.
2013.
Yes.
Okay.
So then you have 2 years to either get onto fourth dimensional consciousness or you leave the planet.
Okay.
When we're finishing 2014 and going into 2015, we do another shift into a fifth dimensional consciousness. Okay. So all the souls that are in fourth dimensional consciousness that are ready will go into fifth dimensional consciousness, and then all the souls that are still in fourth that did not make the shift will have for 2 years to make the shift to fifth dimensional consciousness. When we step into 2017, all the souls are going to be fifth dimensional consciousness, or they're not going to be on the planet. So now we're all playing on the same field, in the same level of consciousness per se. So now we can really start rocking and start making shifts in ourselves.
So what's going to happen to the Illuminatis? Are they going to make the transition?
Some will make the transitions, others will leave.
The ones who are coming forward, some are changing.
Okay.
But they're not going to be here. In the sense of they're playing the role of the bully any longer, because there's not necessary.
Okay, and in a couple, I don't know how much time we have left, but in a couple of sentences, what is fifth dimension going to look like? Once we've made it there, is this one big party? Is this utopia?
No, I mean, that's just another level of consciousness. But what do you classify as utopia? The fact that you are now free.
We're all breatharians. Nobody,
a life free of
nobody
problems.
eats animals. There's no strays on the streets.
A lot of that, yes, will change, absolutely, as we go along.
No more slaughterhouses?
There won't be no necessity for that, because the oneness consciousness comes back in, And that stage
works for
now
me.
you
Okay, I'm good.
You see that you don't need to do that. I mean, our body's not even designed for it. Okay,
See, Hugh, I told you. What are you having for lunch today, Hugh?
I don't know yet.
It's going to be salad, right?
Oh, I definitely will have a salad.
So our bodies aren't designed for that.
No.
Okay.
But that's a whole
other
topic.
story.
Yes.
We got to, okay. Still got a couple minutes here.
Okay.
But I want to ask, what does the shift look like? And does it happen in one day, or is it a slow shift over time?
4 years.
And what happens, though, like when people get up in the morning, what are they going to notice that's different?
Okay. The preparation has been occurring, and there's already people in fourth and fifth dimensional consciousness already on the planet. They see the world differently. What happens with us is that once we've gone through that shift, it's like an awakening. It's all of a sudden you can now see the world in a different way. You now see everything for what it is. It's like I don't know if any of you have experienced it, but it's like you wake up and it's like, wait a minute. We're in a movie.
Yeah.
And I can navigate through this, and everything that's around me is of my own making.
Okay, so I'm going to.
And do I either participate or not?
I'm going to give you a real life example, and you tell me if this works. It's kind of personal, but okay. So nothing. I go about my day. It's fine. The next day, I'm PMS. Nothing has changed, yet the whole world is falling apart. And then I'm done my PMS. Nothing has changed, and I'm fine again.
Right.
Is it like that?
Something like that. The PMS doesn't play a part any longer in that sense.
So it changes your perception. Is what all of a sudden it's like nothing has changed. I still have my job. I still have my husband. I still have my kids and all that stuff. Yet yesterday seemed like such a horrible day, and today I'm fine.
Yeah. The consciousness shift is a shift in not only perception, but it actually dissolves a lot of the old perceptions. So you're no longer filtering things at the same level. There will be still some as you go along, because the thing is it's like I'm from here and I'm black and white type of thing. It's like I'm going from black to a now lighter gray, which is going to get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then the next lighter and lighter and lighter. So you become more and more and more aware and awaken along the way. But meanwhile, while that is shifting, you now get to see that you are navigating the experience, and you're not just a victim here. You show up and I'm stuck here and I can have no choice.
So to Hugh's point then, so you wake up, and okay, so how do you know something is different? So maybe you go to work and you don't see your boss the same way anymore. Is that kind of the way it is?
You'll feel different. You come in and you wake up in the morning, and even though it's going to take a few days to completely do that within 3 days or so, but what you're going to see, you're going to feel different. You're going to look, and the colors of the world looks differently. And all of a sudden, you don't see miserable stuff anymore, because that was the way it was perceived. As like, oh, okay, I'm in this
movie. And even the people who gave you a difficult time, like business partners or bosses, don't seem to be as troublesome anymore.
Exactly.
So that's
and
how
it doesn't
you can
matter
note.
if they're still playing the role. You're neutral, much more neutral about it, and then they won't. See, you have to understand the role that they're playing is only assisting you. Now, they may have a specific characteristics that's their pattern, but the point is they may still play the pattern, but they'll also notice they're going to start treating you differently, because you no longer need the experience, and your frequency is different, and it's like they can't be motivated to even get angry at you. Like you can see people that get angry, and they get angry at some people, and then they're loving to other people.
Yes.
It's just because that energy supports that anger exchange, and they're feeding from each other, and they actually need also that experience, and others they don't. And all of a sudden they can't even be angry with the other person. They can just finish yelling at somebody, and then they say, okay, well, let's go watch a ball game or something, let's go, type of thing. So it can shift that.
That's so funny
much.
Because I will have conversations with my sister, who's been a great button pusher in my life, and it's
give her a big hug for me.
It's okay, I will. So when I'm speaking to her, I will. Anyway, because we're fighting now. No, I'm kidding. But it's funny because I notice sometimes we'll be talking about the same thing, Franco, and we'll be coming from completely different perspectives. I'm like, how does that work? It's like we're sharing the same room, we're speaking the same language, we're talking about the same thing, yet we're in different separate realities, because she's seeing it from one way and I'm seeing it from another way, yet we are still communicating.
Yes.
So it's really interesting how that works.
And that's an example of that shift.
So I'm noticing more in the difference of what I'm not, or what I used to be. That's another way in which we learn, right? Because I'm seeing how much she doesn't bother me as much. She still does, but it's like, reduced significantly. So that means I've grown, correct?
Absolutely.
So I will go give her a hug for you and say, this is from Franco.
She's serving you. Unknowingly, because unconsciously they're not knowing, because the fact they're just playing a role. And I'm sure there's been examples in your life where you've acted in a certain way and you say, okay, it's an automatic response, but at the same time you go, why did I just treat that person that way? Why did I even just say that? That's not even my nature.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's because their soul asked for it, and it utilized part of your nature, part of your program to react that way to give them a specific experience.
Okay. So
that's why this whole thing about, you know, forgiving one another and feeling that they did wrong or that wrong, it's just another mind game. In actual fact, everything is perfect. We actually ask each other. No one can ever do anything to you unless you choose to participate in saying, I want that experience. So example, you know, the thing with Illuminatis and so forth, if you don't participate to play or be part of it, they have no power over you.
Okay. Well, we're just about out of time here.
That's been so amazing.
It's amazing. Now
I
we
think
have
we've acted a lot.
We're gonna have to do this again because I think you said there was a couple times like we got to do a whole show on that, and there's and we could keep talking about this all day.
Oh my God!
Really great stuff.
It's been amazing.
But before we go, I just because you're here in Toronto, Franco, and we were talking that you have to be here in Toronto at least for now.
Yes.
And so.
Well, he gets to jump to different planets when he wants to, but.
Well, I do that every day. But
yeah. So he's not really here in Toronto, but I get
my
your point.
physicality is here. I hold the energy here. Yes, I am.
And you're holding the energy here, and you're here to help with the transition. So, is there anything that you're doing over the next little while that you might want to let people know about, or is there any? Do you want people to get in touch with you for any reason, or do you want to provide?
Because you do consultations, you do personal consultations.
I do personal consultations. That seems to be always booked up because and I need to cut it back now because I need to do more of this type of work where I have to get more. Reach,
you need to serve a bigger,
reach a larger group of people. Today we just skimmed through a bunch of things. I mean, we need to get right into the nitty-gritty realistically, so I need to do more of that. Now I do seminars, we do webinars, we do all types of things to assist, and we give tools, specific tools, how to address certain patterns that humanity has that we are choosing to transcend, provide a higher level of understanding so that we can actually see how we can make changes. And the same thing, a lot of my work will be in how we can look at the systems and really, and I'm working with also Collective Evolution, Masterpiece Life and so forth, but with Collective Evolution we're also bringing in the Shift Project, which, you know, it's a matter, because there's a lot of information out there about, you know, what's going on behind the scenes, and there's much more exposure coming up to the surface now.
So they kind of touch upon, they go deeper into some of the things we touched upon, like the medical establishment and education and all of that, right? So that's one part of it. Now, how do we change it? How can we look at it in a different way and make that transition so that we don't need to be dependent on it? I mean, you look at it, you know, some people say, well, you know, if there's a monetary crash, you know, the whole world stops. I say no, temporarily, because we're in shock and say, oh, wait a minute, you know, we don't have money exchange. What is it? First of all, it's nothing except, you know, little pieces of paper, a little digits. I mean, the food's still going to grow just because the dollar crashes. The sun's still shining, the water still comes, and the food still grows, right? Yes, and we still love to do what we need to do, so we'll go in it. But of course, now at this point, if we're not putting attention on the money, we're not going to go do things that are not necessary. Necessity,
thank you. Because what's occurring, I mean, if you look at the world, 90% or more of what we're doing and different layers of structures of industries and so forth are completely useless.
Yeah,
it's a make work project. It's just keeping people busy so that we don't spend any time being that creative being that we are, so that we can change our
and
world.
That's the true cult that we were talking about in the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
That's a cult. So where can somebody come? Are you doing any talks anywhere? Where can somebody come and see you? Are you doing any talks anywhere? Are you doing something with Lai Ping or?
Yes, actually it's on the 30th. We're doing the Celebrating Life. There's an event there in Scarborough, the
Scarborough Center or something.
Center, yeah, City Hall, whatever it is there, in the square. So we're doing. It's based on the Chinese calendar and so forth. But I'll be one of the speakers there doing a talk, and also I'll be doing a couple of meditations to help people to activate and to, you know, make a little shift in themselves. We do there's stuff posted all the time in regards to what we do with Masterpiece Life.
And that's on your website, right,
yes.
Franco? FrancoDeNicola.com?
Yes, and trying to align all of this because we have, there's stuff on collective evolution, there's stuff on Masterpiece Life that I do events with them.
But are those links all on your website?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so if FrancoDeNicola.com is like a one-stop shop, so we can get all of that.
We don't have a beautiful, elaborate website, which is something we'd like to do.
That's because you said no to the Illuminati. That's then the Men in Black. That's because you said no.
They'll build it for you.
Yes,
they would, but then they want me to say what they want me to say, and it's not going to be what we just finished talking about.
But you know what? This stuff is so complex. And has such an impact. Keep the website simple, because then you can get to the information, right?
Like Craigslist.
Oh yeah, that's really simple.
It's pretty simple.
Is it?
Okay.
Not for me.
Anyway, that's it for the show. And
wow,
Franco,
thank you.
Thanks for doing this today.
Wow, it's been an amazing, awesome experience.
I'm gonna have to go watch this afterwards and digest a lot of it.
Yeah, I think it's been so amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Awesome show. Thank you everybody.
Ernest,
all those 3.5 billion people.
And we'll see you all tomorrow for more Liquid Lunch right here on ThatChannel.com. See you there.
Take care.